there are breakdowns or when there are conflicts start, they can really spiral because of the personal aspect to it. Huge. This is where, fortunes get destroyed a lot of times. Welcome to The Way of the Muse, a podcast for women who want to create richness in every area of their lives, from business and career to lifestyle, relationships, family, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm Gigi Sage.
And I'm Makena Sage. We're a mother-daughter coaching team, and combined, we've spent over 4 decades helping people create their best and most fully expressed lives. If you're ready to step into your bigger dreams with ease, fun, and flow, you're in the right place. Let's get into the episode.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi there,
Gigi,
Makena.
you just got back from an amazing retreat. Tell us all about it.
So it was the Secret of Power Couples, and it was in Tulum. It was great. It was long. I think one of the longest. I think we were there 8 days, 9 nights. We got a lot of work done, a lot of fun. And I think the couples went out happy. That's what matters, right?
Absolutely. It was beautiful. You kept FaceTiming me from the beach.
Yeah, there was this wind that came over because we had a villa right on the ocean, and it just was nonstop the whole time we're there. And I love wind. I love it. Yeah. But by the 8th day, I was like, I need a
No
break.
more wind.
I need a little break from wind. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about some of the distinctions I think that, come up in these retreats when you're working with couples. And you've worked with a lot of couples who have family businesses, right? And family legacies in some way.
I work with a lot of couples who are in business together. Yeah. And, as the years, some of these couples have worked with me for, 15, 16 years. And so now their families are coming into their business. So there's the dynamic of just the couple and how they are together when they have a lot of businesses together. And, it's a challenging thing when you have your business, you have your relationship, you have your family, and it's all mixed together, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely. I mean, we have a family business, so we know.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're a different kind of relationship, mother-daughter. But yeah, so we were just talking about basically some of the distinctions that you teach that really are so important for people who are in relationships together. We're talking more romantic relationships right now, but this could also be, mother-daughter or whatever that relationship is, the importance of that. And then just really, like you're saying, if they do get the rest of the family involved at some point or other family members, it's like, this is the foundation of everything, is how do you create lasting relationships and family businesses and legacies there. So what do you want to share about that? What are some of the key distinction?
Well, first of all, like I said, going back to just in terms of couples who work together, and especially if you want to build a legacy and maybe have your children come in or extend that out to other parts of your family, it's so important for that dynamic, for there to be an understanding, which we've talked about before, is that when we walk into our business, we go pro, and that takes a lot of discipline, and it's from being personal to being professional, because if you don't, it just can cause so many problems. So I learned early on in just my development of when I would assist workshops, that the minute I would walk through the door, I would become a professional. So no matter what was going on in my life personally, I would set that aside and I'd walk in and I would absolutely be professional. So it's basically that skill and really working with couples to learn how to do that with each other when they are working together in a business, because it just makes a huge difference. If there's conflict in the business or challenges in the business and they come in with their personal relationship, it just multiplies everything,
Yeah. And so for our listeners, if you're not in a family business right now or a couple that's in business together, some of our listeners want this. I often hear this from people, is that they they're like, oh, I'd love to work with my mom, or I'd love to work with my partner, or, have considered that. So for some of you, this is kind of research for the future, and you can definitely take this into anywhere in your life. But for those of you who are maybe in business with your partner in some way, or your kids or your parents or something like that, this is a really, really powerful. It seems so simple, but it makes such a difference. So how would someone, I guess, first of all, identify if they need to be doing more of this? Is it just that there's breakdowns happening, or?
I think breakdowns, and you're taking things personally in business, or, you're listening to your partner talk and you're going, they don't do that with me. So you have this editor going also, and, basically your view is in there from, maybe if you're like as outside of the business, you're having some challenges where you take that view into the business. And so the way you start to see that is, do you two have a push and pull when you're in business together? Because the truth is, it should be a super clean energy when you are in your business together. When you walk out the door, if you want to have a fight or have something personal, then that's you can do that. But setting that tone of professionalism sets the tone for the spirit of the business. And especially couples that are in business together, everybody's watching them, they're checking them out, right? It's like mommy and daddy. It's like seeing mommy and daddy, right?
So you're saying all the other employees, if there are other employees, are watching.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really set the tone there. We think like, oh, nobody else is paying attention, or this is just between us, or something like that. But people
see it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're having those kinds of breakdowns, or you feel like the other person should be doing something, then it's basically for you to jump in there first, you're saying, and get professional. How does somebody do that in practice?
The simplest way I know to describe it, because it's your own inner work, right? So is that, think about it, you step through the door, and whatever emotional baggage or whatever fight or whatever disagreements or view, you walk in like with a fresh perspective and with curiosity, and you walk in there and say, hey, we have a job to do here. We're on each other's team, and we are going to set the tone here for productivity and collaboration, because that's just what's clean in our business. And, think about it through the years, because I taught you this, right, years ago when we started working together.
Yeah.
Times that would get a little personal, and I just tell you, we cannot do that. And we have a super clean energy with each other, even if we disagree. Sometimes we get a little testy with each other and disagree, but mostly what we do is we theater it right in front of people. We make fun of it when it comes up.
If anybody's ever been on a retreat with us, you've seen us play this out in front of the room. Gigi will give me a hard time about something, or I'll give her a hard time about something, and we do our little fake bickering. It's fun.
Yeah. So theatering is a great thing. And, for us, we have a great retreats are not like, if you're going to your business, your accounting business every day, right? But I do believe also this element of just going in and being pro, but also a little playful, a little sense of humor, not taking it so seriously.
Yeah, that's a good point, is how can you bring humor into that dynamic as well? Yeah, it's so important for, I think, the longevity. And I think for a lot of people we work with as well, they might be in business with their partner, and often you hear they want their kids to be involved in their businesses someday, right? Yeah. And if you want that to be appealing to your children, it's so important that you apply these principles. So important, because otherwise the kids see, even if they're grown, especially if they're grown, they see the energetic dynamic there. They see everything, even if you think they don't, right? They're watching, and it's not going to be appealing to them if there's that whole push-pull and conflict and whatever. That's not going to be nearly as interesting, right? If you guys are pro with each other, and you are playful, and you have that energy, and you are having a great time and a great dynamic, well, it's going to be much more likely that they at some point are going to come around to like maybe, maybe that is something I'd like to do or be interested in.
Yeah. And another distinction there, when we go back to even with employees and when couples are in a business together, there is this a little bit like mommy, daddy. And the same thing if you bring your children in, and people play each other against you, like one will side with the parent, right? With one parent and not the other, or they will make fun of one and, not the other. And so what happens is people will pull on the different sides, right? The male or female. And so it's so important that there's a sense of alignment, and that is not allowed to happen. Yeah. That you don't talk to your children, especially in business, about your partner in a view that like, oh, see how they always do that, and people just get careless. What they do is they often take their family dynamic of how they are at home, right? And they bring it into the business, and that makes sense. Most people don't know how to do anything different than that.
Yeah. So you're talking about alignment between the couple, right? Between the people who are at the core here, that you are aligned and that you're a kind of like united front, right? Like you talk well about each other. You don't agree with other people about certain perspectives or views or something like that. That could be employees, that could be family members. And yeah, I think that's huge because like you're saying, if there's even just employees in the business and they a little bit side with one person or like one person better than the other. I mean, we've had that even at times with employees in the past where it was like they had a certain view of you or a certain view of me. And it was like we had to really go directly in and address that, and that we never got involved there in that was like, hey, that's got to go out of things for us to be successful here. There's truth, of course, to people's views at times, but it doesn't matter. It's like we've got to be pro, and it has to be that energy of alignment and of yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And if people want to bring their children in, because think of, some of the biggest dynasties and the most powerful people in the world have brought creative family businesses. But again, there weren't really systems set up. They just did their businesses, and because they were family. And of course, there's a huge amount of just, would you say, often this feeling of familiarity with family, which feels good, and if you're growing something together and it's powerful. But what people don't make up is any kind of structure. And in the structure, that same thing, it's not personal. And so when there are breakdowns or when there are conflicts start, they can really spiral because of the personal aspect to it. Huge. This is where, fortunes get destroyed a lot of times. So it's so important to learn. And, like for us, we have systems often where we would do team meetings. We have our, be pro instead of instead of personal. And if that's not happening, then we bring it up. We bring it up, and we set the context to where it's okay to bring it up, so it doesn't feel like you're being attacked or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're saying is even like if you bring a child or a family member into the business, is even to have things like contracts in place and
absolutely
and systems in place, because people think, oh, well, they're family, we don't need that. But the truth is, the more you can put that clarity, that professionalism into place, then the less room there is for breakdowns, which there's even more on the line when it's family, right? You want to make sure that if things ever don't work out, or if, there is a conflict down the road, that there's a clear path, that there's systems in place for that. And same thing, just that people know their roles and responsibilities. And even if you're just a couple in relationship, it's like, do you know what is one person's role in their wheelhouse versus the other? So those are other ways, it sounds like, of getting professional, so to speak, and not just treating it like a personal thing.
Yeah, and you're right on. People need to know what their job is. Yeah, so what they, like I said, the different areas of the business. and have respect with what the other person's doing and just not cross the line there. And if there is something that they see, that there's a dialogue that happens. But ultimately, a lot of times the person that's their area, they make the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about for people who are listening to this, who again do want their kids ideally to get involved in their family business in some way, maybe now or maybe down the road, and the kids don't seem like they're interested at all? Is there anything apart from like, going more pro here and like putting these things in place and being professional with your partner and having more playfulness? Is there anything else you see there?
I think it's fun from a young age, like, we did with you guys, is allowing you seeing where you are curious, where you have strengths, and then bringing you in, giving you little jobs and, when they're younger kids and, acknowledging and letting you feel part of things often is something that will start to build that stepping stone to interest.
So let's take it by different ages, right? So if people have kids at home that are young, what can they do there to potentially like see if they might have a curiosity down the road or kind of create that curiosity?
Well, I think to bring them in the business, start bringing them in and giving them little jobs and paying them. I mean, kids always like that when they get paid, and then giving them a responsibility, really acknowledging them, but really making them part of the team, actually putting them in on, if you're an administrative team, remember you guys used to do the little receipts, right? You had a whole system and everything.
Filing the receipts. We had to write on them what they were and what card were they and put them in the file. Everything was paper then.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. Help in the office, answer phones. I'm pretty sure we did that, or check messages, voicemails.
Yeah, did the mail, because often children that are younger just love that because it feels like they have some kind of power, right? And if you really set it up to where it's fun, then they're going to want to do it. And like I said, they're earning something and it's set up. Here's the mistake people make, I think. It's really set up as a system. So it's like, okay, first they come in and they do it. And then you say, okay, they liked it. And you say, hey, would you love to do that more? Because, I could really use the help. They say, yeah. And say, okay, then if we're going to do it, then we're going to do it 5 hours a month or something like that. And that we're really committing to that. We look at the time frame. This is when you're going to do it. And this is just like a job. So you got to come in and really do it. And it's consistent. Because I think what people do is they get lax, right? They bring them in one time and then they don't do it. And so it becomes right there. It starts to become personal. Yeah. And then the parent asks, they say, no, I don't really want to do it. So from the beginning, you set it up with structure, but also a structure that doesn't feel like pressure or anything like that. You can even ask them, I see that you really liked it. And maybe you're wanting to they want to buy something. So how many hours would you like to work in a month? Because I'd love to have you in there. So that's one way with the younger kids.
Yeah, I think another thing there too is to talk about what you're doing in your business, like, some aspects of it, not everything maybe, but I think some people kind of just keep that very separate from their kids and their family. And then later they want them involved somehow. But I think if you just bring some aspects of that into the conversation sometimes and, this and this happened today, or we're working on this project or whatever, then they naturally get curious. And I think that's just sets up a different kind of dynamic there. So as they get a little bit older then into like their teens and stuff like that, is there anything different or would it still be kind of the same?
I think it's kind of the same, but also you're getting curious about what they really want to do. And if it seems that there's anything around something that is connected to your business, again, I think you just go in and start to show them what you're doing, talk about it. Like you said, maybe it depends on the type of business you have. For us, like with the seminars, I would take you guys to the seminars and travel with you. So there was this element of adventure, right? Which was interesting and enticing. And, maybe they have a brick and mortar business, but also they travel to different places. So you just bring kids along and show them things through your curiosity, tell them stories like how you got into what you did, you know. You can talk about what's happening in the world, where the world is moving to, and what kind of things your business is going to do and as it evolves, right? And so that also is not you trying to get them to do what you do, but it's you sharing your business and how that is going to be growing in the world. So they could choose a lot of different things. You know, I often say, I'm not trying to work with you to have you have the same business as I've had.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've worked with you so we could work together. You could learn from me so you could really create something on your own. Now, if you had a legacy business, your legacy with me is going out and doing work that, I mean, however you to decide to do it, right? Doesn't have to be seminars, doesn't have to be any of that, but taking the information of what you've learned in your character development and sharing that in some way in the world.
Yeah.
For other
Yeah.
people, it might really be a legacy business that is actually the business, you know, it's pins, and that business is growing, growing, growing into, you know, decades and decades and years and developing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. I think what else kind of ties into this is like, as they get older, maybe you're still hiring them and there's something, but it could still be hourly or it could be a project, you know? That's the other thing is like, you know, you brought me in when I was in my teens to help you with writing projects. And then that ended up launching me into my first career in copywriting and marketing strategy. And, you know, I learned a lot of online stuff through basically working with you and doing projects with you. So let's say one of your teens is really into AI, you know, maybe they want to come in and help you apply more AI in your business. And that's a project you guys create together. And you go, okay, what would the project be and how would that work and how many hours? And, you know, you still set up the container there that's very professional, but it could be around something that they're, like you said, they're interested in or they have a natural knack for. Or they might just want to go in and be with the people and be, you know, it just depends on what kind of business you have. But I think that's a really interesting thing. Still to maybe hire them in to do something, but to do it more around, again, like a project or something that it doesn't need to be as simple sort of administrative type stuff as maybe it does when they're younger. You can get a little more creative there. So
Absolutely. You want to tap their intelligence and see what they see, like you said, to create some kind of project. And what kind of project do they think you're, or you can have an issue and say, hey, I'm trying to solve this. What would you do? You know?
yeah, absolutely. So with kids that are grown, let's say they're maybe in university or they're in their early jobs or something like that, and parents maybe haven't done this, what we're talking about in terms of getting them involved up to this point so much, but they are, you know, desiring for them to be involved in some way down the road. Is there anything they can do at that stage to sort of, you know, inspire them to want to be a part of things?
Well, I think we've already talked about like the project part, but seeing that where's their interest or where their skill set is. Because even if you think about it later on in your career, when you had been working in many jobs, I went to you and I said, hey, I'd love for you to help me with the mastermind.
Yeah.
And you had certain skill set that you had really developed from working in marketing in several different companies. And so I hired you for a part-time. You could still keep your job and do everything. And in that, then we started building our relationship working together. So there was this evolution that happened with that. And I did it around what was already your strength. And so it was natural for you.
Yeah.
And so that is a great way if you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. If there's some kind of, like we said, project that they can do on the side, or maybe they're between jobs and they want to try on a test period with you, you know, of like, well, let's do 3 months and let's see if there's something here, you know, if we can make that work. And then the other thing I think is just at some point having the conversation to see, right, if they're curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just asking, you know, if you feel a sense or you would love it, just say, I think about this sometimes. And, you know, I really see that there would be a place for you if you're interested, you know, and sit with that. I think where people get in trouble is when they they say, you really should come work for me. It's like this final, this final thing,
No kid wants to hear that.
you're not doing well in your life, and so you should come work for me, and then right away, all the rebelliousness kicks in. They go, I am doing fine, right?
Uh-huh.
So I think that's important, is you ask those open-ended questions and you use your curiosity, and you don't have an agenda,
Mm.
Yeah.
And what if they say they're not interested? And I mean, for most parents, that's going to be upsetting, right? If they've kind of had that in the back of their minds.
The best thing in the world is just say an open-ended thing. If you ever change your mind, I'd love to talk with you about it. So again, there's no like trying to influence.
Mm.
And then as a parent, because, you have no idea down the road.
I think that so much is like, kids change, and even adult kids change, and especially in those earlier decades of our lives, we change a lot. And we think at a very young age that we know who we are and what we want, right? That's part of being a teenager or being a young adult, is like, well, this is who I am and this is what I want, and that's not going to change, sort of thing. But as most of us know from our life experiences, it changes a lot and it evolves a lot. And so just because they say one thing now doesn't mean that's going to be the way it is forever. So you can't think of it as like having that same conversation with an adult in their mid-30s or something like that. It's a very different thing. So in that, there is the thing again of not taking it personally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
of being professional, right. And just going like, okay, like, not putting pressure on, not trying to get them to do something like you're saying, but just leaving a door open and watching and waiting. Having enough, having fun with it yourself and with your partner if they're involved in the business with you.
Right. Yeah.
I think those are some really great points for people who either have the family businesses or the relation, couples working together. Is there anything else you want to share just back to the couples side of things, about people who are working in business together? That's a challenging dynamic for a lot of people, right?
In terms of, for a lot of people, it is challenging. I have some clients, they're just extremely professional. They have that, they've got that way of just being pro with each other, and they see each other in a very great light. Even when they're having challenges, they most of all keep it clean. It's a practice matter, it's a matter of, if you've been doing it one way for a long time and you've never heard of this before, then to shift it, it'll take time, and you just practice. Somebody has to lead the way.
Yeah. I think the other side would be the flip side too, of when you're not. I mean, the thing I hear a lot of couples who are in business together struggle with, though, then is that they can go only to business with each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to just touch on that?
Yeah, that's another conversation, because that's where I tell couples, you have to have times, if that's certain days of the week, that in the evenings, no talking about business is allowed, or on your weekends at certain times. Again, that's structure, right? And if you're going to be in business together, you're going to have to put structure to that as well, because otherwise your whole life will become about the business. And, in the beginning, when we're younger, that's fun. But over time, that gets really, people get bored. And I think a lot of times, especially women, I see that. They get tired of it after a while.
Yeah. So it works both ways. You want to have your time to be professional with each other, and then your time to be more personal, but I guess personal, not in the way we're talking about here. You want your time to not be talking about business, but even in your personal life, you don't have to take things personally. You don't have to be personal in that sense.
Yeah. We always tell people, be pro instead of personal, right? Be professional and also in your personal life. I think if you think of your time off from business, that's a time that it's more intimate, and it doesn't mean like intimacy in the bedroom or something. It means intimacy in terms of connectedness when you're out and when you're not talking about business. So you're talking about your relationship, you're talking about your dreams, what you two want, how you're growing, your family, things like that. So, and that's really important to separate often from the topics of business.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great start. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well,
okay. We'll see you all in a couple of weeks on our next episode. And if you haven't already checked it out, we have our book, The Wisdom That Raised Me. You can hear a little bit more about Gigi and my journey and the lessons I've learned from her. But really, it's a book, again, for anyone who is ready for something more. You have a great life and you're looking to really step into even more of what you want and really become more of who you were really meant to be. So it's told through my story, but it's basically what we do with all of our clients, right? So there's great exercises and everything else in there. And it is the story of a family business in some ways and a family legacy. So it fits well with this topic. So you can check that out on Amazon. It's The Wisdom That Raised Me. And please leave us a review after you read it. Those really, really help. And we'll see you all next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's our episode for today, but let's not make it the end of our love story. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and think of some women in your life you'd love to share it with. And if you want to learn more about our events and programs, visit wayofthemuse.com. See you next time.